Here's the Mindful Man reading Home by Apricot about Apricot. Mary was starting to feel a little tired with all of the unexpected excitement, and so was Apricot. It was a long way home, and he didn't cherish the slow, rambling bus journey. I think we'll use the tube, she said to a slumbering Apricot. The tube, thought Apricot, puzzled. What in the world can that mean? He mused. He had heard of tubes for toothpaste, obviously, and I knew it couldn't be that. It didn't take long for Apricot to find out. Once again they were among a crowd of people, and Apricot crouched down into the safety of the handbag to avoid all of the curious prying eyes. He was always nervous in groups, and loud noises made him jumpy. It wasn't long ago when his master had routinely shouted at him each time something went wrong, and Apricot had crouched into the back of the cage to escape his angry burning eyes and his boozy breath. After a few minutes, Apricot felt confident enough to raise his head above the handbag, and he looked curiously at the other passengers. It was a surprise to see them too. Some of them had their noses in books, some of them had their noses in newspapers, and one of them was knitting. To Apricot, they all looked harmless, and he began to relax. This didn't last long, as the whoosh of the train blew a man's hat off his head, and it made Apricot's hair stand on end. It was like being in a wind tunnel, thought Apricot, and he looked out of the window, but he couldn't make out anything. Everything was a blur. And then the train oozed to a stop, and everything became clearer. The colourful posters, the map on the wall, which Apricot found hard to follow. It looked like a colourful spider's web, he thought. The next thing he noticed was the unusual tie a man was wearing. He had a picture of a goldfish on the front, and it looked so real that Apricot imagined that he could jump down onto the next seat, startling all of the customers. Apricot's imagination had taken flight. Apricot had learnt to live in his dream when he had been locked in his cage, with not a soul to talk to. Apricot caught the eye of a very old lady who took her long nose out of the thick book that she was reading, and she leant over and began to stroke Apricot gently. Apricot didn't mind, and neither did Mary. Apricot began to enjoy the stop-start of the train. It was like being on a fairground ride, he thought. Finally, it was time to depart, and Mary carried a now confident Apricot out, as delighted and impressed passengers smiled at them.